Hi everyone, this is my run on Act 3 Chapter 3.2, which is the Lufenia stage that is featured alongside the debut of Iroha. And specifically, this run will be a no boss turn run featuring the Terra Young combo and using Noctis to drastically reduce my turn count. I managed to finish the fight with a turn count of 4. And definitely, if you don't mind having a slightly higher turn count, there's a lot of room for flexibility and errors here. So, starting off in this fight, I resetted the wave until Noctis X first. This is to really reduce the turn count so that he can immediately use his LD to grant everyone Warpstep buff. I will also be including a timestamp and description on the strategy and party setup that I used in the video description, so do check it out if you want more information as well. So the start of the fight is really just all about using Noctis to give the team Warpstep buff and then taking the opportunity to set up the relevant debuffs and buffs for your party. So importantly, right before Terra uses her burst mode, you should use Fujin LD call on Young, and as well as the Jack LD call to debuff the bosses. This will drastically increase Terra's damage during burst mode. The goal of the burst mode is to try to bring the bosses down to 79% so that the Lufenia orb will disappear. It's also important to save Terra's LD as the last action within the burst mode so that you actually will get a few free turns with Terra after burst mode has ended. Now I did cut it a little bit close in this run with regards to the Lufenia orb in the first phase, but if I'm worried about the Lufenia orb ticking down to 0, another approach is to use a Brave attack on Noctis before Terra's turn so that Noctis actually gets about 15,000 Brave. So with this in place, once Terra has a burst aura, all her meteors will refund Brave and you will actually be able to maintain the Lufenia orb and actually increase the orb counter after that. I didn't do it because I felt that I could bring them down to 79% right on time, but as you can see here, it was somewhat close. Though I guess with a tighter play, you can actually reach 79% without worrying about the Lufenia orb expiring. So the goal of phase 2, which is 79% to 49% health, is to try to bring the bosses as low as possible using up the rest of Noctis' LD so that you can continue damage under the umbrella of Warpstep so that you will not contribute to the turn count. Okay, so here Terra doesn't have Warpstep anymore, so this action will contribute to the second turn count overall. And unfortunately I really don't have much of a choice, but luckily after that both Young and Noctis still has Warpstep up, so their next 2 turns will not contribute to the turn count. So the strategy here, because my focus is to keep the turn count as low as possible, is to keep refreshing Warpstep with Noctis' LD each time his Warpstep buff count is at 1. So in this case here, using his LD provides everyone with 2 more turns of Warpstep, which will allow you to continue the damage as well as provide you the turn manipulation as well so that the bosses will never be able to get a single turn in. Alright, so this is the final turn count on the Warpstep buff that's currently existing. So with this here, I'll be refreshing Warpstep with Noctis once more, and it's also his last LD skill use. Now right here I actually got screwed over by Terra's high turn rate. Ideally, I actually would prefer if the high turn rate from a skill pushes a turn right after Noctis. Because the drawback here is that Terra now doesn't have any more Warpstep, she's used up the last of the buff, and the next action will actually contribute to the turn count. So I could actually have a one single turn count reduction if her turn actually comes after Noctis, but unfortunately that's not the case here. Okay, so at this point, I'm back at Noctis' turn again, and he's actually run out of his LD, so I won't be able to refresh Warpstep anymore. At this point, I immediately swap him out for Bard's friend support, and then go into Bard's BT attack to get his BT aura. Bard's BT attack does take the turn count, so I'm now at turn number 4. Okay, so here I'm coming to Young's turn. And I am about to pop my summon, but I took a look at Young and he still has one more turn of Warpstep. So since he has a free turn, I decide to take one more turn with him. And unfortunately, Focus also brought his turn forward. And when I looked at his Call aura, his Fujin Call is about to run out, so I have to use the other Fujin Call ability here. And right here, I've run out of Warpstep, so I pop Ramo Summon to continue getting turns without contributing to the turn count. Alright, so the goal inside Summon is number 1 to refresh Terra's EX buff, because I am about to use her LD Meteor spam. But very importantly, the second goal is to get Bard's BT aura to 3 stacks. And if you look at the turn order bar, Bard's only has 1 turn inside summon. So what I did was use his additional ability, which then gives him another instant turn. And I actually used Missile as his second attack so that I get his framed buff up as well. So at this point, Bard's is now at full 3 stacks of his BT aura. And I'll be able to do quite a lot of damage using Terra's LD Meteor after this. So at this point the bosses are below 40% health, and I still have 4 of Terra's LD intact. So it's really just spamming LD Meteors all the way to the end. Her LD use does contribute to the turn count, so if your objective is to keep the turn count as low as possible, what you want to do is use her LD again on the last turn where she still has her free skill up. Right, so right here is her final free turn under the LD. So here, instead of using Meteor, I'm using her LD again so that I can continue on the Meteor chain and not increase the turn count overall. And I just repeat this all the way to the very end. Overall, really, this is a very straightforward fight if you capitalize on characters who specialize in turn delays. There are many other options that you can use besides Noctis, especially if you're not too worried about the turn count. Other good options are characters such as Lightning, Garland, or even Aranya, all of which carries delay as part of their kit and will enable you to push the boss's turns back as you pile on the DPS. Lastly, one final note is that the bosses won't actually cleanse any of the debuffs if they never get a turn. This means that call abilities and characters that specializes in debuffs are especially useful. So for example, Jack's LD call or Gabran's LD call are very useful and will enable you to increase your DPS for every single turn that you take. So that's it. Hope this video has been helpful, and as always, if you enjoy the content, do leave a like, leave a comment or subscribe. It really helps a lot. Till then, I'll see you guys in the next Lufenia fight. Bye bye.